that mission of the products and technology, but it's so rewarding when we're able to work side by side with those getting out of the military to help find them a career.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRI Network, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters. All right, welcome in to Talent Hunters. I'm super excited. I am your special guest co-host for this particular conversation. Vince Holt is also with me. You'll hear and see him on future episodes as well. But our special guest today, Sarah Gagliostro, which I've spent all night practicing how to pronounce that name. So I'm very proud of myself. She is here with us to share some of the things that she's picked up and the wisdom and experience that she's picked up of being in the executive search firm space for many, many years and having a very high level, high stakes specialty and a niche that she and her business operates in. And we're going to talk about what it takes to bring over and lure in the best talent from other companies. How do you onboard them? How do you put them into winning teams? How do you put them in charge of the right teams? And how do you retain them and keep them happy so that they stay with you for year after year? And it's all in service of one thing, right? Hitting big goals, big growth in your company. It's what every founder, it's what every executive team, it's what every chairman, it's what everybody wants for their business, right? Big goals, big growth. Otherwise, why worry about the people? The only reason to worry about the people is that you want to get the right winning teams together so you get big goals and big growth. So that's what the podcast is about. So first of all, Vince and Sarah, welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're super, super excited. Sarah, let's start with this. Let's set a vision of kind of what's possible and why the right search matters, why getting the right talent in the door matters so much. So is there any one person you can think of where it was just a home run, right? It was the candidate loved it. It was a great fit. The company loved them. And there was the right fit so that when they got in there, they hit the ground running and it really changed the business for the better.
Yeah, I guess one that comes to mind is a defense client. They, really wanted to evolve their business out of just, one kind of silo and diversify their portfolio into some more high-tech technology. Mm-hmm. And so they came to us. The CTO called me and said, "Hey, this is our plan. This is what we want to do. I have these two roles." And we just had a really good conversation. I think having that partnership with our clients and just, what are your expectations? Where do you want your business to go? And, for us as recruiters, I have a technical background owning a business. I can kind of piece their puzzles together to really find this ideal candidate for them. So when they said, this is where we want our business to go in the underwater world, there was a couple key things that they were talking about, but really listening to the conversation, one word stuck out to me. And they said, "We want somebody with an entrepreneurial mindset." Mm. And I said, "Well, but why? Why do you want somebody with that mindset?" And they said, "Because they're going to look at things differently." Right? They know how to build something from nothing. They're risk takers. So it was just a different mindset than just, I guess, a traditional corporate role. So I immediately had this thought come to mind. I said, I know exactly who I'm going to go look for. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but they need to hire this guy. It was way more than what they were anticipating. But I knew he was going to be the guy for them. Okay. And it ended up being like a 3-month process because the budget was like a project manager, not their VP GM to head up this whole group. But when they talked to him, they said, absolutely, this is the guy for us. He knows this industry better than anybody. And he's just been super successful. He's really grown their business, and it was just a home run right out the gate.
The chemistry is the leader in the conversation. Did you feel that chemistry even before you presented that candidate?
Yeah, you can feel like the passion of the market, right? And the mission of what we're doing. So, as a recruiter, we have us as the recruiters, we have our clients and we have our candidates, and we all thrive to, I guess, win that same mission, whatever that may be. So in defense, right, our mission is to protect our warfighters. And we're very passionate about that. And what we do is so much bigger than ourselves. And we all share that chemistry because we're all trying to protect, our country and our warfighters. And so we share that passion and that chemistry. We all just want to be a part of that.
And what was the outcome for the company? You mentioned it like it was successful. What did that translate into? What did he actually build?
Yeah. So him and his team have won over 100 million in awards for the business. So they're doing very well. Lots of products underway and, soon to be manufacturing them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That's perfect. And that's interesting. How often do you see companies ask for somebody with an entrepreneurial build from scratch, risk-taking mindset?
I think if we're in a startup world, a lot of them, they're very hard to find. When we start trying to find people with maybe started their own business or went to a startup, they are far and few in between.
Interesting.
But a lot of times you'll talk to people and say, I always wanted to start my own business, but I'm just too afraid to do it. So they thrive in a startup environment too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, takes a little bit of the risk out of it, but they still get the freedom to build something from scratch. So that makes sense. Yep. All right, let's pull back a little and just give people a sense of kind of where you're based at, how long you've been in the search space, maybe a little bit of what you did before that, because you worked, for some startups, some smaller companies like Xerox and Toyota, just some startup companies. But yeah, give people a sense of kind of where you're at, where you're based, how long you've been in business, and just a little bit about the structure, like how, especially now that your husband is part of the business with you. Yeah.
So location wise, we're based in Rochester, New York. We started the company almost 9 years ago out of Palm Beach, Florida. So it has evolved. Came back home about 7 years ago here in Rochester. And organization wise, at the moment, it's my husband and I. So we're just kind of cranking it out together. We've had some folks. Recruiting is not for everybody. It takes a lot of grit and hustle, and it's a roller coaster. So it can be difficult to manage that. So for now, it's just the two of us. We plan on growing our team, and next month we'll have some exciting news to share about our business too. So can't say anything about that right now.
Okay. All right. Mom's the word. Okay.
It's one of those stay tuned.
Okay. And
how do you deal with the challenge of,
how do you guys split the roles?
How do you deal with the challenge of 24/7 with your spouse?
Well, I guess we can kick it back. Like, we met in college. We were mechanical engineering majors. We were literally best friends. Like, we like to go do donuts in parking lots. So like, we are always just hanging out anyways and snowmobiling. So we kind of have that baseline of we're best friends, and we have a son together. It was a little difficult in the beginning trying to manage that, but I think it was more or less me letting go of things that I've always done at work, right? And it's like, well, you don't need to do that because I've always done it, but giving him more responsibility. And so he does all the stuff I don't want to do. He's really good at numbers and bookkeeping and the CPA and the legality things. But he also recruits pretty heavily in our nuclear space. So he worked in the nuclear power industry pretty much his whole career, which I think brings this really unique credibility to our clients because we recruit in nuclear. So when we have our conversations with our clients, he's on those calls and he's asking these super technical questions that at the end of the day really matter to our clients to get them that really niche electrical engineer or whatever it may be. And he teaches me things all the time about that industry. Or, we had one role come up and there's probably maybe 30 of these people in the country. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. What are they talking about? He's like, I know exactly what they need. Boom. And he just knocked it out of the park. So I've passed that torch to him. But I think we work good as a team. We build each other up and we're there for each other on the hard days. And, when we go home, we just kind of say, hey, let's just try to turn work off. Dave Dart taught me that years ago. Just try to turn it off. And, when we're home, our son's home from school and we're just parents and we're just, hanging out and having fun.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to see if we could go a little bit deeper on. Given the fact that you're working in extremely high stakes industries, nuclear and military. And you mentioned just that shared chemistry and the shared mission that people have in that space to keep people safe, support your warfighters at home and abroad. Where did that come from? Do you have a family military background? Was there anything that drives that why of choosing that particular niche?
Yeah. So my father is a Navy vet. My grandfather served in World War II, and then Nick's great uncle was a fighter pilot. So
Nice.
he fought in World War II as well. But it's just kind of evolved over time. Commercial nuclear is known for their Navy talent. A lot of the operators that get out of the Navy nuclear program go into nuclear. So it's kind of evolved that mission of the products and technology, but it's so rewarding when we're able to work side by side with those getting out of the military to help find them a career. So it's both sides. It's helping our clients with their technology, but really giving back to those coming out of the military, because oftentimes they don't even know their capabilities, and they can do so much. And we'll say to a client, "Hey, have you ever thought about this person?" And they're like, "Well, how does a Navy nuclear electrician from a submarine fit into our business?" I said, "Well, let's look at their skill set. Yeah. Look what they can do. This is what they've done, and break it down." So
that's got to be extremely fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So let's shift the view a little bit, and let's put ourselves kind of in the shoes of an A+ player, right? Like, they are A talent. They are in demand.
Oh, yeah.
What are they looking for when they look in the market and they're thinking about companies, whether it's the company they're working for now and the next position, the next role, or maybe they're just open and they're thinking about what they want in their next company? What do they look for?
So our A players in our markets, what they're looking for are a couple things. Number one, they're really looking for flexibility at this time. They're looking for money. It's not always the driving factor. So a lot of them want to work remote. We don't really offer that a ton, but if there's some flexibility with that works. But I think what we're seeing is people want to be treated like people. They want to go to a company that has a really good culture. That's just not, they don't feel like a number. And we really strive to target clients that kind of are mid-sized level. So you can get somebody who's coming from this, huge corporate company, and we can bring them to our clients that are about 300 to 600 people, and they can make an instant impact in that business. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing that they're looking for.
You just radiate this passion coming across, Sarah. I mean, you really do, about the industry, about the people. Where does that come from?
It's just evolved. I mean, it's our business, right? And I just love what I do. So it's just who I am, I guess.
All right. So what? So they want to get into working remote. There's not a lot of opportunity. Okay. They want to be treated a little bit more humanly, as a person that has other goals in life besides working 80 hours a week and just paying attention to the bottom line on the paycheck. So all those kind of make sense. They fit into the kind of the cultural zeitgeist that we're experiencing. Have you seen that evolve just in the time you've been in the space? Is it going further in that direction? Did 2020 massively reset people's expectations in terms of remote work, or did it just kind of like accelerate a trend that was already there?
I think certain industries, I think when we look at like commercial nuclear, they went fully remote. Not everybody, not every position, not the operators and the people who have to be physically at the plant, but a lot of engineering staff went remote who didn't need to be at the plant. And nuclear is a little bit old school, I guess. Like, they want people on site. And I don't think that's something that ever would have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. So companies little by little are saying, hey, we want you to come back. And they're not really happy about that. And it is evolving. I think a lot of candidates felt like, hey, you need me more than I need you type of. But the company was like, no, we're going back to the way that it was. So we'll just find somebody else. So nuclear was hard with COVID, because I think people were able to do their jobs. And I think that's the part that gets them a little angry was like,
Yeah.
the best work I ever did was at home during all of this. So why do I have to come back? But it's just, it is what it is with that. The advanced nuclear reactor technology we're in, it's much different. There's a lot more remote opportunities there, but they're more startups. So we'll have like a test environment where people have to be in the labs and doing things like that. But defense, because it's classified work, they always have to go in. Some do remote hybrid, but for classified meetings, you have to be on site. So,
are the companies taking any concessions to try and attract those people that truly don't want to move inside?
There's just certain jobs that they have to be there. It's just the way that role is, that as great of a person and skill set as they just have to be there. So sometimes we can't make it work. Yeah. So I think the key for getting your A players is to try to be as flexible as you can. But sometimes you can't.
Okay. So taking out the remote work aspect of it, is there any other mistakes you see companies making in regards to, retaining, keeping their best people, building winning teams? Or are there just some things that pop up continually that you notice companies doing that you say, if I was in that position, knowing what I know from the candidate side, I would not be doing that?
Yeah. For me, it's like communication.
Yeah.
You have to be prompt responses. You can't let things dwindle for weeks at a time. And, you just fall off the radar. Like you're over with from a client perspective if you don't have good communication with your recruiters or with the candidates and your timeline. Because these guys, once they hit the market, they're gone. So they have to move quickly. And I know it feels like right now everybody's a little afraid to hire. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting is we need to hire, but we don't want to mishire. So right. I feel like things have slowed down a little bit.
Yeah. Vince, does that resonate? Is that what you're seeing in the market too?
Yeah, we run into this a lot when we're getting towards the end of the year, and you add what's going on with the economy right now. It just compounds it a little bit. Okay. We ran into that in COVID, coming out of COVID, and I feel like it's a little worse now. Do you usually run into a slowdown towards the end of the year as far as in trepidation of hiring, or does it get accelerated at the end of the year?
It usually, summer was always our slow time because people would just take vacation time, but it's slowing down. Yeah. Not that the roles are going away, but the process itself is slowing down. So it could just be that I don't know the whole story of what's going on with their business, or it could be a bunch of different things that I'm unaware of. But yeah, it's a little strange right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Do you ever set up candidates or hiring authorities with exploratory conversations where they don't have an absolute need right now?
Mostly with the candidates we do. Okay. Yeah, we'll have a lot of just general conversation, just to network and connect and learn about, what they've been doing and where they want to go. And, like I always say, I don't know who's going to call me today. So that, their dream role could just, in the next hour, somebody could call and I could say, I got a great person for you. And yeah, so lines of communication are always open.
Interesting. Okay. What practical things can companies do? Because you mentioned that there's some trepidation, there's some maybe just a slowing down of the process. They're just being more careful, right? So how can companies avoid bringing somebody in that is a poor fit in terms of personality or a culture, or they just turns out they don't have the right experience and the right personality fit to actually do what that company wants them to do? What are some things that you've seen companies do well or do poorly that kind of determines whether that person ends up being a good or bad fit?
Well, they make me screen them first. So from our perspective, they're not getting the people who don't qualify. So gotcha. I guess that's why they hire us to screen that all out. Now, Now, there is always that fun candidate who will talk to us and tell us a story, but then they talk to our client and then the story changes. So there's that fun aspect that happens, but
yeah, I can see that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's human beings where we all got our foibles.
Yeah. I just think, people who need to hire, who are being really cautious on hiring, I think they really need to look at what is it that they're really trying to achieve. And who do they really need? And what are those real skill sets, and stick to them. Because sometimes, do you really need the stars and the moon and the sun, or do you just need 2 of those 3 things? So really know what you need.
What are you doing to change? You obviously changed something the way you did business coming out of the pandemic to be able to maintain business, to grow business and continue growing. You're feeling that there is a slowdown in the hiring right now. So what are the thoughts going through your head as far as what you might have to change to be able to keep ahead of the game?
Yeah, I think having more strategic conversations with our clients, really trying to have those trusting conversations of like, what's going on? What can you tell me is going on so that we can be prepared for that? But really looking at our portfolios of where we're working in those spaces. And if one's really still, moving along, then we need to find more clients in that market. So I don't know if that answers your question, but just trying to get more companies, more business.
Yeah, I can see. I think it goes to your point, Vince, you made earlier about just the open-ended conversations. Bro, you're both saying the same thing. Like it comes down to communicating more with candidates, getting your pulse on what's going on and what they're looking for, and then making sure on the other side your finger's on the pulse of what companies are looking for and what their priorities are, what their objectives are for the next year, so that you can be the person that stands in the bridge and brings those 2 together. And the more conversations you have on both sides, the better. Yeah.
And I think working at a higher level with our clients. Yeah. So the majority of my clients that I work with at this point are all C-suite. So that's helpful. I think when it gets muddled down to layers of their staff and I can't talk to the person who's making the decision, it's almost game over at that point.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, well, let's transition, and we're going to finish off with a lightning round of a few questions to close us off. How does that sound?
Oh boy.
And they're all math oriented. It's all algebra. Sorry, Sarah. We're slowing this
perfect. Let me get my calculator.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we all know that the business that you're in, talent hunting is mentally and emotionally intensive. It's a lot of interpersonal interaction, a lot of emotional intelligence. So I want to know, what the heck do you do to unwind?
Sometimes I don't think I ever unwind.
That's a good answer. Okay.
There are days I am up all night. It is hard to unwind. Yeah. I think for me, it's like going away, vacation once a year if I'm lucky, but even then it comes with me. This is going to sound really weird, but for a long time, I just enjoyed coming home and taking a ride around the neighborhood on our golf cart with a glass of wine. I'm not driving, first of all.
I assume this is in Florida, right?
No, this is up here.
Seriously? In Rochester? That's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. So we're in a beautiful neighborhood along the lake.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so there's like a one-way in and a one-way out. And so it's just like, Boca back there. Yeah. Everybody has a golf cart and everybody's just driving around and just, thinking about nothing. Or I like to garden. I like to paint.
Okay.
It's my mindless task.
All right. What's one thing that you are excited about that has absolutely nothing to do with business?
Probably the car I'm about to get in and go home in.
Yeah. So you're driving your dream car, huh?
I am. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Care to share with the audience?
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be 80 something today. So in May, I got a beautiful Audi S5 convertible.
Ooh,
so.
Okay. All right. That's nice. So you got a reason to put the top down. It's New York in October, Indian summer. Yes. That makes sense.
Yep. Okay. And the pool's, the heater's on too. So I'm going cannonballing and I'm driving a convertible in October.
All right. So final question. You mentioned that, there's some nights you stay up all night, you're thinking a lot about, the pressure of putting the right people in the right seats in the bus, right? Yeah. What keeps you going? What gives you that energy to wake up in the morning and do it all over again?
I made a promise to myself when I started the business that failure is not an option. Year 2 in this business, I recruited in one industry. I had all my eggs in one basket, and that whole market tanked, and I had to build it all from scratch. And at that time, I had a great coach, Alicia Sine, and she said to me, "You're not going to quit. You made that promise to yourself that failure is not an option." And so I live by those words. I keep pushing. And my son and my husband, you just got to keep going. I mean, there's days that are hard, right? But every day is hard. Not every day, but it doesn't matter if you're working for yourself or you're working for somebody else, or whatever goes on in life. We have our moments, but just got to keep pushing through.
Love it.
I heard actually it's above me here, a quote. What could you accomplish if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah. And
you're practicing that.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
Love it. Well, Sarah, it's been a blast. I knew it would be from the time we, jumped on the call to prep for this conversation. I knew we'd have fun and we'd get into some deep, interesting things, which we did. Hopefully the listening audience, whether they're executives, recruiters, anybody that's in the market where you need talent, which essentially is everybody in business right now, because pretty much everything depends on getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. So hopefully all of you listening enjoyed it. I know we 3 enjoyed it, so we're fine. We had a great time. So just wanted to thank you, Sarah, again for your time and taking the time out to just contribute. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.